Bedlam, the last Bedlam for a long time. I hope that's not true. I hope they can figure it out. Let's not be petty. But
Mm.
what a game that was. And now Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy, he always does this. He's in the driver's seat for another Big 12 championship run.
This has to be one of the most Mike Gundy seasons of all the Mike Gundy seasons, man. Because preseason they were getting some hype. People thought they were, he was going to turn around. I bet over 6.5 wins for Oklahoma State, and I all but wrote that bet off after like week two. I thought they were done. I did not think they were a good football team, and lo and behold, they're at 7-2. They're a top 15 team in the country and upsetting Oklahoma. And do you see they made shirts the last state champion with Oklahoma State? It was
I
so
did
good,
I
man. It
didn't
was
see
so
that.
good.
I saw they were playing Taylor Swift. We're never getting back together.
I
I'm
like the
just
pettiness off the charts. I love it so much. And they're gonna hang this over Oklahoma's head
oh my
literally until they
gosh.
schedule them again,
It's
which
the
is so
worst.
perfect.
And they're gonna eat at every
Oh yeah.
Sooner fan. You have no comeback.
You don't. And this was the you beat Texas. This was the year where Oklahoma, they were going to try and walk off and drop the mic at the Big 12. Mm-mm, not so fast.
Where do you think you go? Where do you go from here if you're Oklahoma? Like, do you think they'll be able to? They still
I
they still have a chance, but
They have a chance. They definitely have a chance. But I mean, Oklahoma, I don't know because like at best you're gonna compete for the Big 12 this year. They don't look too good. I don't really love how they look leading into next year. They join the SEC next year. You're still going to play Texas, but then you have to next year 2024 travel to Auburn, Ole Miss, and Missouri, and LSU, and then you also play Tennessee and Alabama at home, which is a brutal schedule. And I see them having probably 3-4 losses at least in that slate right there. I don't really love the way they've looked. Obviously, the Texas game was a huge disappointment for the Longhorns, but yeah, I think that was just chalked up a little bit to the rivalry game, same as Bedlam. Like you kind of throw out the record book and the expectations, and it's going to be a one-score game, and you're not really sure who's going to come out on top. But for this year, I mean, Oklahoma, I don't really know because now if Texas wins out and Oklahoma State wins out, which they very much could, they have UCF, Houston, and BYU. I think that's the Big 12 championship.
yeah,
So not really sure. I don't think. Do you think Brent Venables is on the hot seat? Like what's the next step here?
I think I don't think he's on the well. It's getting
It's
really
warming
warm.
up.
It's
It's
getting really warm because this is because he for it for Texas, right? If this was switched, right, this would still be considered a good season because how Texas have been the last 10, 15 years. Oklahoma, they expect to win like
mm-hmm.
now. And they have won. Yeah, go from Stoops to Lincoln Riley, and then you start getting that, we haven't back to back years, we're not in the Big 12 championship. How long has that happened?
Mm-hmm.
When the last time that happened? It's just and then you're going into the SEC. It's only going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't seem like, I mean, they're trending up, but it's just not. It's not going as fast as it needs to be. I'm interested to see if they try and get Jackson Dart some reps because he's going to be the guy next year. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I
Jackson Dart's going to be not Jackson
not
Dart.
Jackson Dart. Oh my gosh,
I'm forgetting his name.
Jackson
Jackson Arnold.
Jackson Arnold. Yes,
Okay. Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, Jackson Dart's over at Ole
Jackson
Miss. I
Dart
was
is an
like, I,
Ole
I
Miss.
remember him. Yeah.
Jackson Arnold, because he's going to be the guy next year.
Mm-hmm. He was a huge recruit too.
A huge recruit. I mean, I think he could spin it.
Mm-hmm.
Get in some games. I don't think they have to worry about burning his red shirt now. That's if eventually say I think Texas has to win two more games,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Oklahoma State has to win one more game, maybe two as well,
In order to, you're talking about
in
clinching
order
the
to clinch it.
yeah.
And it's like
I think so. Wait, so you're literally telling them to essentially start prepping for next year? Like this
I
is
mean,
you're
what
selling right now? Like this is
what else is there to play for?
I mean, you got to hope that there's some kind of upset for Texas or Oklahoma State, but
I agree. I'm saying if once they clinch, I think
mhm,
these. I think Texas has TCU. They could lose that
mhm.
game, right? Especially if Quinn isn't there.
Yeah.
That game could go that can go sideways really quick. I don't see Oklahoma State losing, but
Mhm.
if it's week 12, why not throw him out there just see what he has?
I mean, I don't blame you. I do like that, but I think I mean he's at this point. We're talking about his seat starting to get hot, and he's about to move into the SEC. He needs to rack up. He
He
cannot have
needs some
close
style
games. He's got
points.
to. He needs some style points. He's got to
He needs
show
some
off.
style points.
If I mean if they're up 3 touchdowns, then yeah,
Yeah.
put in Jackson Arnold and get him allow him to throw the ball, get his feet wet because to change the subject, we were hyping up Malik Murphy 2 weeks ago. He our boy didn't look too good, man.
No.
I beginning of the game it was watching the tide turn from the beginning of the game where he looked great, hit a couple deep throws, hit Xavier Worthy, hit Adonai Mitchell in the end zone, and then all of a sudden he just could not hit the broadside of a barn, like missing wide open crossing routes 5 yards down the field, really really bad reads. He threw an interception directly to like a linebacker's chest. It was just like he looked like he had never played football before,
Look
and
like a freshman.
yeah, but it looked like the yips, right? And like that's the kind of thing where you're like, we, Texas's season is now hanging in the balance because they're a playoff team if they can just win out. And you're thinking Oklahoma next year, you don't want him to come in, Jackson Arnold, and just start cold because he's going to
Start
have
cold,
some
yes.
yips
Like
and
let them.
he's going to have something like this. And Texas is kind of lucky that, it was a pretty ugly game against Kansas State, but I mean, it was Kansas State, and Kansas State was, they're ranked, but they're not really the scary Kansas State team. And Texas was up 20 points at half, I think, or in the second quarter. So I don't know. It was just ugly all around for that. But no, the point is I kind of agree with you. Like you don't want your hyped recruit to just get in there with cold feet and not really know what to do, or decide
in
with the
the
first
in the
mistake he
SEC
starts
too.
to in the SEC starts to make it starts to snowball. And I think the snowball effect was very, very real for Texas.
Yeah, and I like you mentioned like they got to get some style points. I think they can win. They can win out, and I think
Mm-hmm. I gotta look at their schedule. I because Oklahoma's schedule for the rest of the season is West Virginia, BYU, TCU. They can win out,
they
right?
can
Like
they can win out. And you go
yeah,
10-2. I think you're fine, right? You
yeah,
go 10-2. You get your future a lot of practice that you can't simulate. There's no preseason in college football.
yeah.
You come out swinging. So I'm interested to see how they kind of manage that transition. It's always intriguing.
Mhm.
All right, let's keep it moving. We might as well. We already talked about it. Are we worried about Texas? It does I'm think Quinn is still day
So
to day. I'm not. I don't think he plays this
I don't
week.
think he plays either. I don't think he plays either. So let's say I'm going to say yes and no. I am worried, but I think Quinn comes back before Texas Tech, which is the last game of the season. It's right around Thanksgiving. So they got TCU and Iowa State the next 2 weeks. I think they're okay for TCU and Iowa State. Uh, Malik Murphy did not look good, but I mean, Jonathan Brooks looked fantastic. Their run game is good. CJ Baxter looks good. They have the better offensive and defensive line every single game that they play, but they're in real trouble if they can't put teams away. Like this is now the second time in 3 weeks. We saw it against Houston. We saw it, this week against Kansas State. They get up big. They look really good, and what happened to all gas no breaks. Like they're just kind of slowing down, and they just let their defense just I don't know if they're getting sleepy. They kind of fall apart. They just let other teams in, and it seems like the snowball effect and all of their mistakes start compounding on each other. So I would say I'm worried about that because you don't want to limp into the playoff, right? Like you don't want to limp into, to a New Year's Eve bowl and get the doors blown off. I think we definitely need to get Quinn Ewers back, hopefully before TCU. If Malik Murphy can, turn it around a little bit, get momentum, Quinn comes back, plays well, then I'm not super worried, but I don't know. We'll see. What do you think?
Yeah, kind of for the same reasons. We're not finishing games, and a part of that is just because the red zone
Mhm.
offense is atrocious, and it's hard to keep scoring from 30 yards out,
Yeah.
right? I think, and that's what you're seeing. We can get the big plays and
Mhm.
stuff. We can get or we first a turnover, get the ball on the 3 yard line. Yeah, you're gonna score from there, hopefully. But
Mhm.
if you keep having to kick field goals and the other team's going out getting touchdowns, eventually they're gonna crawl back into it. Especially with Sark, he's really aggressive. He's gonna go for a lot of those times, and you know the 20, 30 yards out. This is the red zone offense. We saw it with Quinn.
Mhm.
We saw it yesterday with Malik. I think we were in the red zone 5 times. We had 13 points, or 4 times we
Yeah.
had 13 points, or something like that. It's
And it's frustrating
not
because the
good.
run game does look good and gets a push when we're, in the middle of the field. But then I guess once the deep threat of, AD Mitchell and Xavier Worthy aren't fully there, then we kind of lose the ability to get a push up front because they're stacking the box. I'm honestly not really sure, but I really think we have to utilize like the tight end and throw a little bit more to Sanders. We gotta get some size, down the red zone and move people out of the box to be able to like have a little bit of a dual threat and then not take, a shotgun slowing like a just a dead start, handoff to Jonathan Brooks. What is he's not running people over, right? So I don't know. It's a little bit ugly. You're right. They rely on the deep play way too much. They're very very good at it. And when Malik actually is accurate, he was hitting people downfield too. So it's not just Quinn Ewers doing that. But yeah, no, it's a little bit scary because when you can't score, at those close like goal line plays, you're not going to beat a team in the playoff. You're not going to be able to compete for a national title, which is clearly the hope right now for Texas is if they can just win out and win the Big 12, they got a shot. So and this is the year when everyone is not really sure who's super good and who's not good. They already beat Alabama. Everyone else has looked like they had flaws.